was a mistake. Fresh Harry and Meghan updates every single day. Yes, the ones the Montecito Mafia and MSM don't want out there. Subscribe to Outspoken for daily royal coverage. It's completely free. And if you want to believe the propaganda, then you also believe that at 59 years old, Sir Clive Alderton, a healthy, vibrant man, is some type of decrepit figure who has to go and retire the moment he turns 60. Wake up!
Sir Clive Alderton's decision to step down as King Charles's principal private secretary may sound at first like a routine palace staffing change. A senior aide reaches his late 50s, approaches his 60th birthday, completes 2 decades of royal service, and prepares to hand over the reins in an orderly transition. That is the official version, and parts of it are unquestionably true. Alderton has served the royal household for around 20 years. He has been one of King Charles and Queen Camilla's most important advisors. He helped steer the monarchy through the accession after Queen Elizabeth II's death, the coronation, major state visits, sensitive family disputes, and the early years of a reign that has been anything but quiet. Buckingham Palace has publicly praised his loyalty, his wise counsel, and his role in ensuring a smooth transition to whoever comes next. But in royal politics, the official version is rarely the whole story people are talking about. The question is not simply whether Sir Clive is retiring. The question is what his departure means at this specific moment.
Welcome to the real world. It's 2026. People don't retire if things are going well, when they're in one of the most powerful jobs in the world. As is often the case, he has been forced out because there is a significant fundamental disagreement between him and the king. Now, my reporting on this, and by the way, I'm not the only one reporting on this. As you know, Tom Sykes of The Royalist has been very much across this story. And today, Rebecca English, who is the head of the Royal Rota, is describing us as conspiracy theorists.
After months of briefings about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, security, palace accommodation, a private family reunion at Highgrove, and the possibility that King Charles is trying to reopen a route back into the royal fold for his younger son. That is why this departure has created such a storm. It lands right in the middle of a much larger argument about the future of the monarchy. Should Harry and Meghan remain firmly outside the institution they walked away from, or is the king quietly trying to bring them close again, at least as private family members with royal access and royal optics? The confirmed facts are clear enough. Sir Clive Alderton is due to leave his formal role in 2027, around the time of his 60th birthday. The palace says there will be a recruitment process, with internal and external candidates considered. Alderton is expected to remain available in a less formal capacity, which is not unusual for someone who has held such a senior and sensitive role. He has been described by many royal reporters as one of the most consequential courtiers of the modern era. He was not merely an administrator. A principal private secretary controls access, manages the sovereign's working diary, advises on strategy, helps coordinate between the household and government, and acts as one of the main filters between the monarch and the outside world. In a court system built on discretion, trust, and timing, that is an immense position. That is why the Harry connection matters. In Spare, Prince Harry famously referred to a senior courtier known as the Wasp, widely understood to be Alderton. Harry portrayed the figure as charming, polished, and dangerous in the quiet way palace operators can be dangerous. Whether one accepts Harry's version or not, the symbolism stuck. To Sussex supporters, Alderton became part of the men in grey suits world that they believe blocked Harry, leaked against him, or hardened the palace's position. To many monarchists and Sussex critics, Alderton represented necessary discipline, the kind of advisor who understood that Harry and Meghan could not be allowed to drift back into royal proximity after years of interviews.
The Islamist takeover, I mean, conspiracy theorists are usually just first, but this is what she said. News from Buckingham Palace. Ignore the conspiracy theorists. This is actually a very personal decision. In today's Daily Mail, Sir Clive has been the king's silky smooth gatekeeper for 20 years and will be missed by many, just not His Majesty's youngest son, or Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor for that matter. So this is what the mainstream media are doing. They are trying to suggest that this is all just because he is standing down around his
documentaries, memoirs, accusations, and commercial projects built on the royal name. There is also a security dimension to Alderton's importance. The principal private secretary is not simply a diary manager with a polished title. Reports have noted that Alderton sits on RAVEC, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, the body connected to decisions about protective security for royals and other public figures. That matters because Harry's security fight has become one of the most bitter parts of his post-royal life. Since leaving working royal duty, he has argued that he and his family require official police protection in the UK. The courts have not given him the outcome he wanted, and the government has maintained that protective arrangements are decided through an expert process. If a senior palace aide connected to that process leaves, Sussex supporters will naturally wonder whether the atmosphere around Harry's case could change. Critics will argue that it should not change at all, because security must be based on risk, not royal family emotion. Both reactions are predictable. This is why reducing Alderton's exit to a birthday retirement feels too neat for many observers.
Worse. If I'd just shut up about the fact that she was lying about racism within the British royal family, it would have been a lot worse. Actually, sunlight is the best disinfectant. These debates about whether Prince Harry and Meghan Markle should return need to be taking place in public, because the king should be listening to his subjects on that matter, just like the king should be listening to his subjects on the matter of Christianity versus the Islamic faith, which is a whole other story, which we won't get into today, but you understand the point that I'm making. Let me bring in Paula Frolick of Paula.
A man in that role would have been involved directly or indirectly in the areas where Harry is most sensitive. Access to the king, confidentiality around meetings, accommodation at royal residences, and the overlap between family gestures and institutional privilege. He would also have understood how one private decision can become a public precedent. If Harry is offered a palace room, does that change his security argument? If Harry meets Charles privately, who controls the briefing afterward? If Meghan and the children are included, how is their privacy protected? If photographs later appear, who carries responsibility for the damage? These are not emotional questions. They are operational questions. A good courtier exists to ask them before the headlines arrive. That is the real debate underneath the retirement story. Some royal commentators, including Tom Sykes of The Royalist, have argued that Alderton's exit is a significant win for what he describes as the Bring Back Harry faction around the king. According to that interpretation, Alderton was one of the leading palace hawks, cautious, resistant, and deeply skeptical about giving Harry and Meghan any meaningful route back into the royal family. On the other side, figures such as Theo Rycroft, Alderton's deputy, have been described by some commentators as more open to reconciliation. Buckingham Palace has not confirmed any such factional map, and it would be wrong to present it as established fact. But the fact that these labels are now being discussed so openly tells us something important. People who follow the palace closely believe there is a real argument happening behind the scenes. The official palace line is that this is a personal decision and a planned transition. Some Royal Rota reporters have pushed back hard against the idea that Alderton has been forced out or that his departure proves a palace civil war. Their argument is straightforward. Senior people do retire, especially after long service. 60 is not an absurd age to step aside from an all-consuming court position, and the palace would naturally present this transition with dignity rather than drama. That argument should not be dismissed. Not every royal personnel change is a conspiracy.
Pose an existential threat to the British royal family. So let's go through this because there's a lot to cover off, Paula. I believe this is a real crisis. Rebecca English of the Daily Mail just says, ignore the conspiracy theorists. There's nothing in this departure, Paula, that is at all unusual. He's just going because he's turning 60 next year. Do you believe that?
No, not at all. This is ridiculous. Now, granted,
Sometimes a senior aide really does decide that after decades of intense public service, the time has come to move on. But the timing makes skepticism inevitable. This is happening after King Charles and Prince Harry appear to have taken small steps toward personal contact. Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet reportedly had a private family reunion with Charles and Queen Camilla at Highgrove in July 2026, marking the king's first known meeting with his California-based grandchildren since 2022. Around the same period, there was a messy public dispute over whether Harry would stay at Buckingham Palace during a UK visit. Palace sources said the accommodation offer had been withdrawn because Harry accepted too late for staffing and arrangements to be made. Harry's side suggested the withdrawal was disappointing and unclear. Now, reports say Charles is prepared to offer Harry a room at Buckingham Palace again for a future visit.
That the king is doing what he always does, which is when somebody disagrees with him and doesn't kind of kowtow to him, he gets rid of them.
100%. And you could argue, Paula, he has every right to do that. He is the king.
He does.
He is the king. And it is very important that the men in the grey suits agree with him. And this is one of the issues that I've had for quite some time, Paula, when people like Prince Harry try and say, oh, the men in grey suits, they're doing things that the late Queen...
Put all of that together, and Alderton's exit stops feeling like an isolated HR notice. The Buckingham Palace accommodation story is especially important because of what the palace represents. This is not just a convenient, secure building with bedrooms. It is the central, symbolic home of the British monarchy. If Harry stays there, the optics are powerful. He may no longer be a working royal. He may live in California. He may have attacked the institution in interviews and in a memoir. But a stay at Buckingham Palace still tells the world that he remains connected to the heart of the crown. For Harry and Meghan, that symbolism is extremely valuable. For Charles, it may be a gesture of fatherly welcome. For William, and for many monarchists, it may look like a reward for years of public disloyalty. That is why the debate has become so emotional. Nobody serious is saying King Charles should never see his son again. Nobody serious is saying Archie and Lilibet should be punished for the choices of their parents. A grandfather wanting to see his grandchildren is human. A father with health concerns, advancing age, and a fractured family.
Wrong. However, Charles doesn't really listen to anyone except with the massive exception of the public when they boo him. He doesn't look at polls. He doesn't look at how unpopular Harry, Meghan, and even he are. He does not care. The only thing he really cares about is when he's doing a walkabout and people come up and boo him and hold up signs as to what they are angry about. Only then has he actually said, okay, let's take action. Look at what happened with Andrew.
May well want peace. Charles may look at the final decades of his life and feel that reconciliation matters more than public anger. He may want history to remember him as a unifier, a man who chose forgiveness, family, and Christian mercy over permanent exile. On a private level, that instinct is understandable. But the king is not only a private father. He is the head of state and the custodian of an institution that survives on trust, continuity, and restraint. When he opens a royal door to Harry, he is not simply opening a door to his son. He is potentially opening a door to Meghan, to the Sussex brand, to Netflix cameras in spirit, if not in fact, to future memoir material, to leaks, to briefing wars, and to the repeated use of royal proximity as proof that the Sussexes are still central to the story. That is the institutional risk. Charles may be thinking like a father, William may be thinking like a future king. And those two instincts are now colliding. This is where Sir Clive Alderton's role becomes significant. Whether or not he was forced out, a senior courtier in his position would naturally be involved in access, diary management, advice, and the practical boundaries around royal contact. If the king wanted to move closer to Harry and Meghan, a cautious principal private secretary could slow the process, challenge the optics, insist on conditions, and warn about the danger of mixed messages. If the king wanted to offer accommodation, meetings, or invitations, a strong advisor could ask the awkward questions: what is the purpose? Who will be present? Will there be photographs? Will Meghan attend? Will the children be used publicly afterward? Could this look like a soft return to the royal fold? What does William think? Those questions matter because the old half-in, half-out issue has never really gone away. In 2020, the Sussexes wanted freedom, independence, and the ability to earn money while retaining royal status and influence. The late Queen, Charles and William ultimately rejected that model.
Paula, to being at Buckingham Palace when that Daily Mail court decision was announced. And it was only wise heads like Sir Clive Alderton who were able to quickly withdraw the offer on the technicality that Prince Harry hadn't accepted in time. But that might not be the case next time, because both sides, Paula, both sides are now briefing that the next visit will be accepted in time and that Harry will stay at Buckingham Palace. So again, you can say, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen.
The deal was clear. No hybrid monarchy. You are either in as working royals under the rules of service, or you are out as private citizens. The danger now is that a new informal version of half in, half out could emerge. Harry and Meghan do not return as working royals, but they gain royal accommodation, family access, palace symbolism, Balmoral invitations, and the ability to say, without saying it directly, that they are back inside the circle. That would be a gift to the Sussex brand. Meghan's lifestyle business, as ever, is trying to prove it can become a real consumer company rather than a fame-driven side project. Public data and commentary suggests the brand has real customers and branded demand, but also that attention has softened from its launch peaks and that its long-term durability is unproven. The rosé, fruit spreads, honey, flower sprinkles, teas, and curated domestic aesthetic all depend on Meghan's image. And Meghan's image is still most powerful when it is royal adjacent.
You give us enough time, we can overlook your security. If not, you can stay at a palace, which will always have security. Harry has always said no, because Harry is still fighting for, well, he was still fighting for Ravik. I believe what happened at Highgrove is that he promised his father he would not appeal the case against the Daily Mail. Of course, he doesn't have the money to do that. And that he will also stop fighting with Ravik in his father's courts. So the Buckingham Palace has always been on the table. He's just now...
A duchess selling lifestyle is more interesting to the public than a former actress selling pantry goods. Royal proximity is the invisible ingredient. This is why critics see every olive branch from Charles as commercially useful to Harry and Meghan. A private reunion at Highgrove generates headlines. A photo carousel from a European summer trip generates headlines. A visit to Althorpe, Princess Diana's childhood home and burial place, generates headlines. A report that Harry may stay at Buckingham Palace generates headlines. A rumour of a Balmoral invitation generates headlines. Even if no product is mentioned, the effect is the same. The Sussexes are restored to the royal conversation, the brand benefits from the atmosphere, the titles feel alive, the story feels current. And Meghan does not have to say a word about monarchy for monarchy to sell the mood around her. The Balmoral speculation is another example of why people are anxious.
As you pointed out, there's nothing more royal, more symbolic than Buckingham Palace. And for Harry and Meghan to be seen on the steps of Buckingham Palace, well, that does say, guess what? We are royal. Both things they need. So there's that. The other thing is, Balmoral. If you look at Meghan's carousel of holiday photos, there was one suspicious photo on a lake, not at Althorpe, not on that little tiny lake that holds Princess Diana's island.
Some commentators have claimed that Charles may extend, or may already have extended, an invitation for Harry, Meghan, Archie and Lilibet to spend time at Balmoral. That has not been firmly confirmed by the palace. But even the possibility is enough to create concern, because Balmoral is not just another royal property. It is where the late Queen spent her summers, where Prince Philip loved to be, where royal family memory is thick, and where William and Catherine have built private family routines with George, Charlotte, and Louis. If Harry and Meghan were invited into that space at the same time, the emotional pressure on William would be enormous. William's position is often discussed as if it is stubbornness, but it may be more strategic than that. He has spent years watching Harry and Meghan turn private family material into public content. The Oprah interview, the Netflix series Spare, podcasts, interviews, allegations, and repeated briefings have all created a pattern. If William believes that private conversations may one day become public ammunition, he will not expose his family to that risk. If he believes royal access will be converted into Sussex legitimacy, he will resist it.
Luck. And that was kind of a little morsel crumb of, hey, guess what? We're going to Balmoral. Now, I have reported in the past that no way will William be in the main house, and no way does he ever want to go back to Balmoral if Harry and Meghan are there or invited to the main house. There's the pick. But he doesn't care. Harry is all about Harry. Prince Charles is all about Harry. We know how.
If he believes his father's desire for peace is being exploited, he will harden further. For William, distance may not be revenge. It may be risk management. The same applies to Catherine. The Princess of Wales has been dragged into the Sussex story again and again. The bridesmaid dress dispute, the Oprah-era claims, Spare, the broader narrative of Meghan's difficult entry into royal life, and public comparisons between the two women. Catherine is now a future queen, a mother of the next generation, and someone who has had her own major health challenges in recent years. She has little reason to welcome renewed Sussex proximity if it means more speculation, more leaks, and more emotional disruption. A serious palace strategy would take William and Catherine's position into account before any attempt to soften the path for Harry. That is why Alderton's departure has been read by some as a warning sign. If one of the strongest internal voices for restraint is leaving, and if his likely successor is perceived as more sympathetic to reconciliation, then the balance inside the court could shift. Again, this is interpretation, not confirmed palace fact. Theo Rycroft may be a capable professional who will simply serve the monarch's wishes, whatever they are, but that is exactly the point. Courtiers serve the sovereign. If King Charles wants more contact with Harry, the next principal private secretary may be expected to make that happen. The staff do not rule the king. They advise, warn, and implement. That point is often misunderstood in Sussex commentary. Harry has frequently framed palace courtiers as if they are independent operators controlling the monarch against his will. But the reality is more complicated. The principle is the principle. The late Queen's staff serve the late Queen. Charles's staff serve Charles. William's staff serve William. Courtiers can shape information, manage access, and influence tone, but they do not become monarchs in shadow.
Because Allison and Tom are right down the middle reporters. They are not cheerleaders. They're not on any royal rotas. They are simply reporting what people in Harry and Meghan's camp are saying. And we all need to know that because we know how manipulative they are. We need to know exactly what they want because we're going to start seeing the palace bend to that in a hot little second.
Yeah,
so for everyone who says, I don't want to hear this, too bad you need to hear it because it's about to happen. And same thing for you when you talked about Meg.
If Charles is moving toward Harry, that is ultimately Charles's decision. If Alderton opposed it, that opposition mattered only because Charles allowed it to matter. And if Charles no longer wants that resistance, a change of personnel becomes very significant. There is a parallel here with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Charles has faced criticism for how far Andrew and Sarah have been allowed back into public royal settings, especially after years of scandal and reputational damage. Andrew no longer has an official public role, but his presence near the family still sends messages. The public does not always distinguish between family inclusion and institutional endorsement. That is the danger with Harry and Meghan as well. Charles may think he is offering private family kindness. The public may see rehabilitation. The Sussexes may see renewed leverage. William may see institutional risk. The same gesture can mean 4 different things to 4 different audiences. That is why loyal monarchists are now arguing in public. Some people believe that criticizing Charles on this issue is disloyal. They say the king deserves trust, that family reconciliation is humane, and that royal watchers should not assume the worst. Others argue the opposite, that loyalty to the monarchy sometimes requires criticizing the monarch's judgment. If a decision could weaken the crown, then silence is not loyalty, it is avoidance. The monarchy depends on public consent, and public consent depends on the institution appearing disciplined, dignified, and fair. If people believe Harry and Meghan are being quietly rewarded after years of damage, anger will grow. This is not an anti-monarchy argument, it is a pro-institution argument. The crown is bigger than Charles's emotions, bigger than Harry's grievances, bigger than Meghan's brand, and bigger than any individual courtier. The question is, what protects it? Does forgiveness protect it? Sometimes, yes. Does firm distance protect it? Sometimes, yes. The challenge is knowing which applies here. With Harry and Meghan, the evidence of the past several years suggests that private closeness often becomes public drama. That does not mean reconciliation is impossible. It means reconciliation would need strict boundaries. Those boundaries would have to be clear. Private meetings should remain private. No palace photographs, no social media hints from sensitive royal locations, no use of royal residences as lifestyle backdrops. No briefing that Charles has forgiven them in a way that pressures William to follow. No suggestion that a private family invitation means a return to public royal life. No balcony appearances, no official duties, no quasi-royal tours, no court politics through the media. If Harry and Meghan want family access, they must accept family discretion. If they want royal symbolism, then the palace must ask why. The problem is that Harry and Meghan's recent pattern has not reassured critics. Harry lost his major privacy case against Associated Newspapers in July 2026, with the High Court dismissing the claims and finding that the allegations had not been proved. He has also faced continued scrutiny over his US visa records, with the Heritage Foundation pursuing legal avenues for further disclosure of government documents.
As we learn too, now forgiven, and Paula, this is new reporting, forgiven and invited Harry, Meghan, and the 2 children to Balmoral. This from Sarah Louise Robertson. Watch.
All has been forgiven from King Charles's side. So I'm letting you know that. And that's why we've seen the beautiful pictures from Althorpe, but what's coming is the King has forgiven and he is extending. He's going to extend an invite later this summer for Harry with his wife and their 2 children to spend.
Meghan's As Ever brand has been debated over traffic estimates, product pricing, inventory questions, and whether public attention is converting into sustainable business strength. Meanwhile, their European summer content, Portugal reports, Althorpe images, and royal reunion stories have kept them at the center of the news. Critics call this a distraction cycle. When the business, legal, or public image news is difficult, royal proximity becomes the escape route. That does not mean every story is coordinated. It is easy to overstate strategy. Sometimes events simply pile up. Harry may genuinely want to see his father. Charles may genuinely want to see his grandchildren. Meghan may genuinely want to share family memories. A lifestyle brand can have both real products and real challenges. A legal defeat can be painful without being part of a larger plan. But public figures are judged by patterns, and the Sussex pattern has made people suspicious. When every road seems to lead back to royal relevance, critics naturally ask whether relevance is the point. The visa document story adds to that sense of pressure. The Heritage Foundation has continued trying to obtain records connected to how Harry's move to the United States was handled by government agencies after questions were raised because he wrote openly in Spare about past drug use. Earlier releases were heavily redacted and did not answer the central public questions. Later reporting suggested that hundreds of documents totaling thousands of pages were being reviewed for possible disclosure in another strand of the fight. None of that proves wrongdoing by Harry, and it is important to say that clearly. But it does mean another uncomfortable file is hanging over him. When legal bills, visa scrutiny, brand questions, and public polling all sit in the background, royal reconciliation becomes more than a family story. It becomes a possible reputation reset. That is why the phrase distraction tour has gained traction among critics. They are not claiming that every event is fake or every family meeting is staged. They are saying the timing is convenient.
And children. However, on the other hand, no, you can't have half in, half out. He already made that agreement. You cannot rework it, as I wrote, into a new Highgrove agreement where he can go and do whatever they want in the States and then come back and be a private, happy family in the UK. The other reason is, frankly, Meghan doesn't know how to behave or treat people. So are we going to start setting our clocks as to how many people in the palace are upset and wounded and hurt by her actions towards them?
The thing is, this has been...
When Harry loses a court case, suddenly the conversation turns to whether he may stay at Buckingham Palace. When as ever faces questions about commercial momentum, Meghan's summer imagery pulls royal watchers back into Althorp, Portugal, and family nostalgia. When visa records are discussed, reports of Charles's openness to the Sussex children soften the edges of the story. The couple may not control every headline, but they benefit when the royal narrative swallows the harder questions. That is the pattern critics are responding to. The danger for Charles is that he may think he is acting above the media cycle while actually becoming part of it. A king does not need clicks, but the Sussexes do. A king may see a palace invitation as a private courtesy. The online ecosystem sees it as a signal, a victory, a rebuke to critics, and a fresh chapter in the reconciliation drama. Every gesture is immediately turned into content by supporters, critics, columnists, social media accounts, and entertainment outlets. Charles cannot stop that machine.
I really feel like the king is playing into this because let's just think, Paula, about all of the failures. I mean, the failures are piling up. And actually, this should be a moment where, in my view, and again, this is my opinion, where Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, are winning the day. It's like disastrous court case against the British government, failed. Disastrous court case against the Daily Mail, failed. Commercial failures, like let's do exile. But it was Sabera alone who's come up with this term that Harry and Meghan are on a distraction tour. And she wrote on X, let's remember H&M are on.
But he can decide how much fuel to give it. If he offers too much, too publicly, or too vaguely, he risks letting the monarchy become the supporting cast in a Sussex comeback storyline. The media dynamic makes the situation even more combustible. Traditional royal reporters rely on access to palace sources, briefings, travel arrangements, and long-term relationships. Independent commentators often accuse them of being too close to the institution and too willing to accept official explanations. Royal Rota reporters, in turn, accuse independent commentators of building dramatic theories from gossip and factional briefing. Both sides can be right in different ways. Official sources can sanitize reality. Outside commentators can overread events. In this case, the safest approach is to separate confirmed facts from interpretation. Confirmed fact, Alderton is leaving in 2027. Confirmed fact, the palace praises his service and says a recruitment process will take place. Confirmed fact, Harry criticised a figure understood to be Alderton in spare. Confirmed fact, there have been recent reports of renewed accommodation offers and family contact. Interpretation, this may signal a shift toward Harry. That interpretation is plausible but not proven. Still, plausible interpretations matter in royal life because monarchy runs on signals, a smile, a seating plan, a balcony appearance, an invitation, a title, a room at a palace, a name on a guest list, a photograph from an estate. These things all speak. They may be small individually, but together they create direction. Right now, the direction many observers see is Charles softening toward Harry, while William remains firmly opposed. Alderton's departure fits that perceived direction. It may not have caused it, it may not prove it, but it intensifies it. For Charles, the temptation is obvious. He may believe time is short and family division is corrosive. He may want Archie and Lilibet to know Britain, to know their grandfather, and to have some relationship with the House of... He may also believe that excluding Harry forever keeps the feud alive, while carefully managed inclusion could reduce the oxygen around the conflict.
They don't want to go there. There have been a lot of scurrilous things going around. And Paula, what they really want, they want back in royalty, period.
Well, Harry does, and Meghan will use it to make money. And the thing is, I was there reporting right at the time throughout 2018 and 2019 when all of these options were being discussed by the British royal family. They were desperate to try and make Harry and Meghan happy. And as you point out, none of these opportunities made them happy because they wanted exactly what they wanted, which was basically Meghan and Hollywood, Harry ruling the roost and the royal family. So actually, this idea which they were presented...
That is the best argument for his approach. Sometimes a door left open lowers the temperature. Sometimes kindness disarms grievance. Sometimes a family can move past public wounds only by starting with private contact. The counter-argument is that Harry and Meghan have not shown enough restraint to deserve renewed access. They have not rebuilt trust. They have not clearly accepted the finality of Megxit. They have not stopped using royal identity as a central commercial and media asset. Harry has not healed his relationship with William. Meghan remains deeply unpopular with much of the British public. And the Sussexes' public operations still appear to benefit from every royal rumour. If Charles offers too much too quickly, he may not end the drama, he may feed it. The worst possible outcome would be ambiguity. If Harry and Meghan are out, they should be out in a clear, dignified, non-punitive way, with private family contact handled quietly.
In Africa, you say you care about Africa. We'll provide you full security, and here's a place in South Africa. Zero interest about it. But look, Paula, you've got explosive new reporting now about this financial collapse around Prince Harry and what it's going to make him potentially do. And this would be a nightmare, a new nightmare for King Charles and Prince William. So what we're going to do is get into your exclusive reporting as the Royal Uncancelled After Show continues. I'd love you to be part of it. As I say, I don't mind if you don't agree with me. Like, let's have a discussion. Let's have the debate. But as Paula says, please, let's just...
If Charles wants them in privately, the boundaries should be strict enough that no one can mistake private contact for institutional restoration. What the monarchy cannot afford is a foggy middle space where Harry and Meghan are not working royals, but still enjoy the trappings, headlines, and emotional leverage of royal access. That would reopen the very argument settled in 2020. This is why William's future reign is now part of every calculation. Charles may be able to invite Harry. Charles may be able to offer Buckingham Palace rooms. Charles may be able to see the grandchildren, forgive old wounds, and ask staff to make it work. But William will inherit the consequences. If Charles brings Harry closer without William's agreement, the next reign begins with unfinished business. William would either have to maintain the softer policy, which seems unlikely, or reverse it, which would create another public rupture. A wise court would avoid forcing that choice. That is why the next principal private secretary matters so much. The person who replaces Alderton will not simply organise diaries, they will help manage one of the most delicate family institution crises of the King's reign. They will need to understand Charles's emotional priorities, William's constitutional future, Harry's volatility, Meghan's media instincts, public anger, security limitations, and the danger of royal symbolism being repackaged as Sussex content. That is a brutal job. It requires someone who can be compassionate without being naive, strategic without being cruel, and loyal to the king without forgetting the monarchy must outlive him. The public should also be careful not to turn Alderton into a cartoon villain or saviour. He is not the monarchy. He is not the only reason Harry is outside. He is not the only thing preventing reconciliation. If Harry and Charles are distant, that is because of years of choices, not one courtier. If William does not trust Harry, that is because of real personal history. If Meghan is unpopular, that is not because a palace aide made her so. At the same time, individuals at the top of palace machinery do matter. They shape tone. They enforce discipline. They say no when no needs to be said. The loss of a strong gatekeeper can change the atmosphere, even if it does not change the constitution. The central question is whether Charles understands how many people are watching this as a test of judgment. For many loyal supporters of the monarchy, the Sussex issue is not gossip anymore. It is a test of whether the Crown can defend itself against emotional manipulation, media warfare, and commercial exploitation of royal identity. They watched the Queen handle Megxit with firmness. They watched William and Catherine carry on with duty. They watched Harry and Meghan build a profitable narrative from complaint. Now they want to know whether Charles will hold the line or blur it. If Charles holds the line, reconciliation can still happen privately. Harry can see his father, the children can know their grandfather, family pain can be treated as family pain. But the palace must not become a stage for Sussex restoration. If Charles blurs the line, the monarchy risks rewarding the very behaviour it spent years surviving. It risks alienating William and Catherine supporters. It risks telling the public that duty matters less than drama. And it risks giving Harry and Meghan the one thing they need most: renewed proof that despite everything, they are still inside. In the end, Sir Clive Alderton's departure matters because it has become a symbol. Officially, it is the planned retirement of a distinguished royal servant after decades of work. Unofficially, it is being read as a possible change in the balance of power inside the King's court. The truth may be somewhere in between. Perhaps Alderton is simply ready to leave. Perhaps he also leaves at a moment when the King's instincts are moving in a direction he did not support. Perhaps the palace can manage the transition smoothly. Perhaps the next year will reveal that the hawks and doves language was overheated. But the anxiety will not disappear because the underlying problem remains. That problem is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's unresolved status. They are not working royals, but they are not ordinary private citizens. They are outside the institution, but they make money and headlines from the institution. They ask for privacy, but their story depends on visibility. They want family connection. But family connection can become public leverage. They want the symbolism of royal belonging without the discipline of royal service. Until that contradiction is resolved, every palace gesture will be treated as a warning sign. So the real story is not just that Sir Clive Alderton is leaving. The real story is that King Charles may be approaching a defining choice. He can be a forgiving father, but he must also be a careful sovereign. He can open private doors, but he must protect public boundaries. He can love Harry, but he cannot allow Harry and Meghan to turn royal forgiveness into brand fuel. And he must remember that the monarchy's future does not rest with Harry. It rests with William, Catherine, and their children. If the king forgets that, then Alderton's departure will not be remembered as a retirement. It will be remembered as